Unmute. We're now live. And did I unmute myself? I think so.
Unmuted.
Hi. I think
Hi.
Welcome everybody to the Zoom webinar, Understanding. I feel really far away.
No. Is there a way we can...
So, Understanding and Navigating Academic Probation. I know that our heads are probably really big or really small on your screen. Just to kind of get us started, I know that we do have quite a few attendees today. If you can, some housekeeping bits here is you should be able to find your Q&A function and also a chat function. On either one of those, if folks can let us know that they can hear us, and while we're exploring that, I noticed that the chat function, oh, yep, we got somebody saying, yes, I can hear you.
Excellent, thank you.
So, oh, thank you. We look so kind, such words of kindness. We can look, you look great, you can hear us, that's awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I just realized I did not update this slide. This is not Julie.
I'm not Julie.
So
we'll manage, I think.
We'll manage, okay. So I will put Brad's name in the chat so everybody knows who he is for the record, and you can all make note of our names. So just another housekeeping item here. We are not going to stay on camera this entire webinar. We want you to focus on the content of the webinar. And so you will see our lovely faces for just this slide, and then from here on out, you'll just be hearing our voices. So our webinar is going to be recorded and available online via the college website. You can navigate through the college website to access other online videos. In the meantime, if you don't have something accessible to write with, go ahead and grab something, because hopefully if you have a pen and paper handy, you'll be able to take some notes for yourself for some of the thoughts that we're going to share with you today. Is there anything you want to add for housekeeping?
No, I think we're ready to go, ready to get started.
All right, so now you're just going to hear us, so we are going to disappear. Do not be alarmed, okay?
So a little bit about us. As Lily said, my name is Brad Horton, and I'm one of the academic counselors in the Dean's office. A little bit about me. I've got a wonderful picture of Chicago there, which is where I'm originally from, Chicago. And when I was in Chicago, I went to a school called Northwestern University, and that's where I started working in the student affairs field. And from there, I obtained a teaching position in Japan, which is one of my favorite places there on that picture, Nikko, Japan. And that's where I loved teaching and learned my love for guiding students, which ultimately led me to UC Davis. And you can see a picture of the Mondavi Center, which is one of my favorite places to go here on campus. I love music, I love listening to live music, and I love the experience of going to see live music. So I go to the Mondavi Center pretty regularly. I've been here in the Dean's office for 12 years now. Wow, 12 years. And Mondavi Center is really close, so it's not too far of a walk. Some of my other interests, I love being in the mountains. I love the outdoors. I identify with being an outdoor person, and you can see a picture of me there sitting on the mountain ready to go down on my snowboard, which is one of the activities I love to do. And you can also see me with a picture my backpacking dog. His name is Bear, and he loves to put on a backpack with me and then go into the mountains and hike and camp. That's just a little bit about me.
So I'm reflected on the right-hand side of this slide. I went to Chico State, and I'm originally from San Diego County. I lived in Oakland for a few years, so I have that Bay Area experience and worked in some of the high schools and community colleges out there. I have two little kitties at home, and then this wonderful little person right here is my son, who's 5 years old. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been working in the Dean's office now for a long time. So for a long time, 15 years in the Dean's office, so I know a lot of folks and places to go on campus. And I want to give a shout out to Angie Wynn, who is one of our major advisors who's joining us as a viewer today. So if I throw something out there for Angie, be ready. I might ask you a question. And then as one last housekeeping piece, the content for this webinar will run about 30 minutes, and we'll save some space at the end for Q&A. Okay, if you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A function. on the Zoom website. So that's where we would prefer to have any questions that come up. So welcome back to school and Happy New Year to 2018. So this is a great time to evaluate your last year and make commitments for improvements for 2018. Our office sent out notifications regarding your academic status at the start of the quarter. The messaging asks you to take some action for advising with your major advisor and the dean's office. Some of you may have already, oh look, there's Brad. Hey Brad,
Hi.
You're showing up, you're on camera now. So some of you, he's gonna figure out how to turn off his camera maybe. There he goes. So some of you may have, right down there's a stop video on the bottom left.
Thank you.
That's all right. Some of you may have already connected with your major advisor or maybe even with the dean's office and to discuss your academic status. For those of you who have already taken some action, great job. For those of you who have not taken action yet after receiving our dean's office message, other than signing up for today's webinar, we hope today's activity will help you start these discussions and initiate your exploration of your resources on campus so that you can start taking action on improving your academics. Maybe on your own you have already decided to make some changes, and we hope that you will hear confirmation during this presentation today of the great things you are already doing and maybe get some additional ideas for tools for yourself. Lastly, we want this presentation to prompt you to check in with the dean's office if you have not already done so. Even if you already talked with your major advisor, it's important to also connect with our office or vice versa. We would like to discuss your winter plans so that you can be back in good academic standing as soon as possible. As a reminder, some important dates that you may want to note, which can also be found on your front page of OASIS, is the 10th day of the winter quarter is January 22nd. This is the last day to drop courses with a 10-day drop deadline. Winter quarter 12th day of instruction is the last day for wait lists, so be monitoring your wait list to make sure that you don't accidentally or intentionally pop into an enrolled class. And the 12th day is also the last day to add a class via Schedule Builder, but be doing that only with advising, as you know, we're already into the third week by the 12th day of the quarter. And then mark your calendars that Past One appointments will be available January 29th. So we encourage you to connect with your major advisor before the end of the month to plan for your Past One appointments for spring quarter. So in different parts of the presentation today, we were going to have short polls. As moderators, we will see your responses, but your responses are anonymous to other participants. You will see there are two ways to ask questions, which we already went over. And as a reminder, please use the Q&A function, the question and answer function, so that they can be sent to just us as the moderators and other attendees will not see this. We might not answer your question right away, but if we know we will cover it in an upcoming slide, you'll feel like we already did. But we will go over all questions asked by the end of the presentation. So these are the goals that we have for you today. And you will see that as we continue our conversation, we will be building on these goals to help you improve your academic status.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. We want to test your basic knowledge about academic probation and what that means. So as Lily said, we're going to be doing polls throughout the presentation. And when we do a poll, we want you to respond quickly to that poll, and it will appear on your screen. So read through the question and respond as soon as you can. Your response is not going to be attached to your name, so it is going to be anonymous. We really want to get a sense of what you as a group know about the academic probation status.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so let's take a quick poll about qualitative academic probation. What is qualitative academic probation? Please read the question and respond as soon as you can.
Okay, let's see. People are voting.
Right.
A really good attendance. Wow, everybody's really speedy on the vote here.
You're fast.
Okay, a couple more people. Even you, Angie, can vote, major advisor.
we still have a couple of people to go.
Couple more.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna end polling now.
Sounds good. Okay.
So just so you know, 50% of participants today said that your quarter or cumulative GPA is below a 2.0, but a 1.5.
And
Brad, are they right?
And the answer is B. Yes. Qualitative academic probation is when you're below a 2.0, but above a 1.5 for your GPA. Okay, so moving on to minimum progress. What is the requirement for minimum progress? Please read through the question and answer the poll just like you did the previous one.
Everybody's fast.
I know.
This is like, what's that game we played in the summertime during orientation?
A Kahoot.
Kahoots!
Like our orientation Kahoot.
No prizes, folks, just knowledge. That is its own prize.
We have a few more folks that need to respond for the minimum progress, but it looks like we're
majority
almost
30 seconds, that's it.
That's
all right.
30 seconds. And the majority of you said, it looks like we're actually almost split between a 12-unit average, which was A, and a 13-unit average, which was B. That was reversed. 12-unit average was B, 13-unit average was A, and the answer is A. You did not average 13 units in a full-time quarter. So minimum progress, academic probation for minimum progress, let's just go over quickly what minimum progress is. It requires full-time students to complete 39 units in each academic year. So this averages out to 13 units per full-time quarter. Minimum progress is calculated at the end of the spring quarter, and probation is when a student completes 36 to 38 units by spring quarter if full-time for the whole year.
You may have heard different numbers regarding how many units you need to complete each quarter. So here is what you need to know. You need to have 12 units to be considered full-time. This can impact financial aid, tuition, residence hall housing, and for international students, their visa status. You need to average 13 units during each academic year to meet minimum progress. And lastly, you may have heard the number 15. You need to average 15 units each academic year to graduate in 4 years, which is 12 full-time quarters. And these would be degree granting kinds of units. So if you do not complete 39 units during your academic year, it may be crucial for you to discuss your progress at the dean's office so you can be enrolled in the correct number of units for this next academic year. So for the remainder of this year for winter and spring. Talk with the dean's office about how summer school units can be used for your specific scenario. This could be summer school that you completed in summer 2017 or summer that you can plan for summer 2018. It's important that you develop a reasonable and realistic strategy to address your unit progress. It's not always the best to just add a bunch of units for the sake of meeting minimum progress, because that could damage your grade point average. So there is different types of probation. Probation is when it is your first quarter on academic probation and your previous quarter was in good academic standing for grades. Probation continued is when you have been on probation 2 consecutive quarters. And subject to dismissal can occur when you have spent 3 consecutive quarters on academic probation. There are other reasons that can cause subject to dismissal status. You may also hear the term subject to disqualification, but they are synonymous. They mean the same thing. Please note that there can be, I just said that. There can be other reasons that students can be SD. If your UC GPA is below a 2.0, it is important to discuss with the dean's office to help you get back to good academic standing. You also need to be aware that only UC grades impact your UC GPA. If you are planning to repeat any D or F grades, you should discuss your plans with an advisor so that you understand the impact of repeating a class on your UC GPA. So as Brett said during our poll, you can be on probation for minimum progress. Minimum progress, the university requires full-time students to complete 39 units each academic year. This is an average of 13 units per full-time quarter, and as a reminder, it has not been calculated until the end of spring quarter. If you did not pass 13 units in the fall quarter, you will want to meet with the dean's office to discuss your specific situation. We can help you strategize ways to reach minimum progress. Sometimes this strategy will include using the upcoming summer to complete units. Summer is a great way to restore minimum progress so you don't overload your winter or spring quarters. Each student's situation can be very different. So even if you talked with friends or other campus resources, or even if you talked with your major advisor about your academic standing as it pertains to minimum progress, please follow up with the dean's office. And as a reminder, maybe you didn't know, but as a reminder, workload units do count towards minimum progress. So come see the dean's office to talk about what counts, strategies, and how to use summer school for minimum progress. So remember, let's go back over these numbers, 12, 13, and 15. When you hear them, they can become confusing because you're not sure how it may apply to you. 12 unit minimum per quarter to be considered full-time, 13 units on average for every full-time quarter for minimum progress, and 15 unit average if you are trying to graduate in a 4-year plan. We do not encourage students to enroll in too many units to reach minimum progress. If you are enrolled in more than 15 units at this time, please be sure to seek advising as soon as possible to discuss these plans and a strategy to be successful.
Okay, so when you came to UC Davis, you came with high expectations and you wanted to do well. And sometimes unexpected challenges outside of your control happen. I mean, life doesn't stop just because you're here at Davis. And the transition can also be a challenge or harder than anticipated, the transition to UC Davis. Davis is a large university and the quarter system is incredibly fast. So it's not uncommon to feel behind or unsure where to go for help. Anything from study habits, personal family issues arise, your financial situation. These are some of the challenges that can impact your academics. You know, we're clicking through injuries, health issues. Some of these things can impact your academic performance. So what we want you to do is think back about the last quarter and what some of the challenges you faced were. Because now is the time to adopt new habits to support your successful winter quarter and finish this year strong. So think back again to this last quarter. We're going to do a poll. What was the main contributing factor that affected your grades?
I think you can only choose one.
You can only choose one, and remember that these are anonymous answers.
So watching some of the things coming in, looks like family, illness, and health were big factors. I'm gonna leave another 5 seconds. Oh, we had a few more people show up on the webinar since we started. You're not too late for those of you that just joined us. We are recording, so you will be able to access this webinar on the college website later.
And thanks for answering the poll. It looks like some of the, just to share, some of the primary issues were family concerns or family issues, as well as time management issues. And it looks like illness and health issues, as well as challenging class schedules, also impacted some of you in this last quarter. So thinking back to that, so the question is, how do I return to good academic standing? To return to good academic standing, you must complete the quarter with a C average grades. Okay. You have the ability to help yourself return to good academic standing as well. There are a variety of campus resources to support and help you. It's important to seek advising so you know exactly what your options are. We talked about the factors that may have impacted you in your classes. So consider any changes or things you may need to do to address and plan and create a plan of action to help you reach your academic and your personal goals. Remember, you're not alone. There are a number of resources and advising options on campus to help you out. Please be aware that when you are in good academic not in good academic standing, you cannot change your major, and you cannot change letter graded classes to a pass no pass option on Schedule Builder. If that means if a class is only offered as pass no pass grading, you can take those classes like PE classes, physical education classes, and some seminars, including first-year seminars. You just can't change a letter grade to a pass no pass. And at any time during the quarter, if you feel you're struggling in your classes, or if life stuff happens that starts to impact your academic progress, we really want you to seek advising from the dean's office to explore your options for the quarter. And it's important to do this as soon as things become uncertain. So if something is coming up during the quarter that's impacting you in your classes, that's a great opportunity for you to come and talk to us in the dean's office so we can discuss plans for you moving forward and discuss how things are going. And although minimum progress, just a note on minimum progress, although minimum progress will not be measured until spring quarter, it's also important to discuss your units with your major advisor and the dean's office so we can help you strategize, as Lily said, for the summer.
I just want to call to everybody's attention that you may hear us repeating things over and over in different ways.
Yeah.
We're aware of that,
Yeah.
but I just want to mention it because sometimes our brains and ears might not be ready to hear something the first time. So if you hear things being repeated, it's kind of like that adage when you learn study skills. Like if you hear something being repeated in a lecture, it's probably going to be on the test.
Probably going to be on the test.
Right? Okay, so campus resources. So get your pens and paper handy. These are some possible resources that are here to support you while you're here at UC Davis. And I want to let you know that, you know, I'm kind of a bargain shopper. Like if I'm going to get the most bang for my buck, and you are already paying for all of these resources. So I want to share these with you. If you haven't already done so, please start exploring campus resources. Start familiarizing yourself with their services. Maybe even just stop by their office to know where they are located, and take the time to ask their staff and their peer staff. You know, sometimes there's students that are working in there. Ask them questions about how to best utilize their resources. They are all here to support you academically and personally. So in the Student Academic Success Center, you'll find things like study skills, which includes time management. That was one of the things that came up during our poll. Tutoring, there's actually a pilot online tutoring matching service. So sometimes students will say that the time can be inconvenient or location. Check out the online tutoring matching service that's available in a variety of subjects. They also have success coaching, which is one-on-one matching with somebody, which is like having a cheerleader and accountability partner in one. And additionally, some success programs like the Educational Opportunity Program, the Guardian Scholars Program. You know, check out to see what kinds of things you can find through the Student Academic Success Center. And this is just a small sample of what they have to offer there. At Student Health and Counseling Services, of course, they have health and counseling services, but the counseling services can be really important, not just for students that may be experiencing some emotional disturbances like depression or anxiety, but also to explore careers, exploring how do I talk to my parents about their expectation for me to major in this, but I really love that. So there's oftentimes more to counseling services than just sometimes an assumption that there must be quote unquote something wrong with me, when in fact this is just, again, another way that you can get some life coaching as you navigate your academics here at UC Davis. And then there's also food and nutrition support. This includes things like Veggie Up and the Pantry Program, which are free food resources. So if budgeting and finances have been a challenge, access to CalFresh, also known as the Food Stamp Program, is a way that you can get connected to supplement your pocketbook and your food. In the Student Community Center, not only is there a great coffee shop over there, the South Coho, but there's all these wonderful resources that are available to you. The AB 540 Undocumented Resource Center, definitely a source of stress around some of those topics today for our students that identify as AB 540 Undocumented. All of these other locations, the Cross Cultural Center, the SRRC, the LGBTQIA Resource Center, And I want to note that the Services for International Students and Scholars, also known as SISS, and the Women's Research and Retention Center are not located in the Student Community Center, but they have other locations. Please look those up, and they are, again, additional places that you can go to. I want to note that counseling services extend to many of these other Student Community Center offices, as well as academic offices and departments, and in the dean's offices as well. Such as we have a satellite provider here in the dean's office. Anything else I want to say about those?
Maybe the Community Advising Network.
Oh, the Community Advising Network is sort of an anonymous way to seek counseling resources, and the acronym, you know, Davis loves acronyms, is CAN, C-A-N, the Community Advising Network. Look that up on the Student Health and Counseling Services. A CAN counselor visits many of these offices, and you can meet with them to talk about stress management, time management, again, just sort of those regular stressors of being a student. Let's go over really quickly some advising resources. We talked already about major department advising. In the major, you're going to find your major staff advisor, but also ask your major advisor about faculty advisors. Sometimes faculty advisors can be your link to understanding professional and career opportunities, research opportunities, internships. You know, don't rule yourself out because you had one difficult quarter that you wouldn't be the type of student that somebody would want in their research lab. That is really not the truth. So please talk with your major advisor about getting connected with faculty. Talk with peer advisors if you're exploring majors. They're great resources to ask them how they went about finding their major. In the dean's office, we have daily drop-in advising. We will have the hours posted, I believe, on our last slide here. There's also an online exploration tool called the Major Card Sort. You can search that in the Google search box on the UC Davis homepage, and that can help you in exploring majors as well. And then health professions advising, we have a lot of students across the campus and even within our own college that are looking at vet school, dental school, medical school, pre-nursing. If you're wondering, you know, how can I make it over this little dip in my academics as I prepare for the next step in health professions or pre-graduate advising, you know, reach out to those offices. Your questions would not be uncommon and very welcome from those advisors that are there.
So what should you consider when moving forward? So hindsight is 20/20, and this is a really great opportunity to reflect back on the previous quarter, and any challenges that you faced. So think back to that poll and how you answered. You know, what could have helped you have a different academic situation? So for example, could you have used some of the academic services Lily just talked about and explained? Could you have changed your study space or participated in study groups or office hours? Could you have had a better balance of work and school or a better balanced course load? Maybe if you had taken slightly fewer units, less units or less of a workload, you may have done better. Or maybe you could have engaged in fewer social or extracurricular activities. So really reflect back to how the quarter went and what kind of resources you can use on campus to help you, because there are so many resources here at Davis to help you. Some of those options that we listed, there are so many different options, they can be overwhelming to figure out, and that's a really great opportunity for you to come into our office and talk with us about some of the resources that may best help you improve your academic situation and achieve some of the goals that you want to achieve while you're here at Davis. So time for another poll. I want you to think about at least one resource you can use to help yourself this next quarter. So as you make your decision of this list of resources, think about how you will ensure that you are going to use this resource, and consider creating a manageable action plan to help you use this resource. And add any others that you feel you could benefit from using as well. All right, we've got a lot of great answers. Looks like we're in between a number of different great resources. Student Academic Success Center seems to be popular. We still have a few more people answering, but it looks like most of everybody has answered.
Okay. And before you reveal the results, Brad, I noticed that somebody raised their hand.
Yeah.
And if you have a question, I want to remind you to find the Q&A button. I think it's a button where you can ask questions. So I don't want to ignore that you raised your hand, but during this webinar, we won't be using that function. But yeah, so please ask your question on Q&A. It's anonymous. The participants will not see your question. Okay, now to reveal the results.
And the big reveal. So it looks like improving study skills and using the Student Academic Success Center led the group here. And there's a number of other, as we noted, like balancing school with work life, talking with counselors for support. I'm thinking back to one of our previous polls, it seemed like time management was one of the concerns, as well as some family issues. And those are really great ways to get connected to time management workshops and learning how to best manage your time through the Student Academic Success Center. And for some of those family issues that come up, talking to people and using resources like the SHCS or CAN counselors or any of the other resources we have can help you navigate some of those family issues as well.
I want to also just mention that there was a low response, although not zero, to the Student Community Center and office hours and professors. And I want to encourage you, all of you, to ask about, how can I better utilize office hours? How can I better utilize my professors and TAs? Because those are tremendous resources for you. And sometimes it's just not knowing how do I even start the conversation in office hours? And at the Student Community Center, take some time to visit some of those resources and find out if they offer any additional tutoring or study groups in those center places that we talked about at the Student Community Center, because I know some of them do. I'm gonna leave it up to all of you to go ask those questions, okay?
So this can be your wake-up call. Academic probation is an opportunity for change and improvement. So think about framing your academic situation positively and don't stay in the past, so to speak. What is done is done. This is a good chance to learn about what you did well, what you feel you can improve upon, and how you came to be on academic probation. Really reflecting on those challenges that you faced and what you could have done differently. And it's an opportunity, as we talked about in the last slide in the poll, to really build your team or build your community of support here on campus. And we're part of that support system because we want you to be a successful student that we know that you are. And you have a partnership with our office and your major advisors, so Dean's Office advisors, your major advisors, your faculty members, the community centers at the Student Community Center. So these are resources to help support your success and to help you build your team.
So I hope you wrote down the thing that you said you were planning to do. If not, here's your opportunity to do it. Maybe you might want to take a picture of this particular slide to create an action plan. What changes will you make? Who do you need to be a part of that action plan? What campus resources will you use? How often will you use the resources? If you're taking a class that you need tutoring, it's not like you get a tutoring chemistry vaccine and you're going to be better for the whole quarter. How often will you use those resources? And who's going to hold you accountable? So it's important that you think about that, and most importantly, you've got to write it down. You've had time to think about the fall quarter and the challenges that you may have faced. So now it's time to think about what you can do moving forward. Although it may be uncomfortable at first to discuss your personal and academic challenges, remember we are here to be your partner and we're here to help you succeed. If you've been trying to resolve this on your own, now is the time to seek support. Allow us to connect you with resources and advising. We hear lots of things from students as to why they never came in for advising. I know sometimes in the dean's office students assume that we're the principal's office because we have to administer academic policies. And sometimes students are worried about bothering advisors, and some students just want to be independent and do it on their own. Other students may have a sense of shame and feel that they are letting themselves and their family down. Brad and I, incidentally, we're both first generation to college students or graduates.
We are.
Who were once students. And we know how difficult it can be to navigate the university. We also know how difficult it can be to ask for support, sometimes given familial and cultural expectations. However, please know that when you are asking for advice, it is not an inconvenience to us. This is what we are here for. Pride, ego, shame, fear, or even a strong sense of obligation to being independent may hold you back from achieving success and your goals if you don't use resources to support your success. Students don't set out planning to end up in academic difficulty. And we know that despite this stumble, you belong here and you can succeed. You earn your admission to UC Davis, and we want to help support you to be successful in your goals. So this is just a visual representation. I think it's silly, makes me laugh, but we want to be here to support you. I encourage you to start to get to know the people, staff, faculty, and peer advisors that work in the campus resources that we mentioned. You may find an unlikely hero or shero that will help you be able to explore balance and develop tools for academic success. Positioning yourself for success is a partnership with your own reflection and working with your major and the dean's office.
Okay, so back to polling and to check on what we've learned about academic probation. So what is qualitative academic probation? A student is on academic probation for qualitative grades performance when the quarter or cumulative UC grade point average GPA is A, below 1.5, B, below 2.0 but above 1.5, or C, below 2.0. So we have a few people who haven't quite voted yet, but they're getting there. It looks great.
So remember, I told you it was going to be on the test.
It was going to be on the test. And this is why we repeat it, because we want to make sure that you really understand your academic status and where to get help when things aren't going the way you expect. So it looks like everybody has voted, and the big reveal, the answer, yes, is B. Qualitative academic probation is when you're below a 2.0 but above a 1.5 for the quarter or cumulative GPA. So to follow up on minimum progress. A student can also be on academic probation for minimum progress. Remember, minimum progress won't be measured until spring, but let's take a quick poll to see how one gets on quantitative academic probation. Wow, everyone's really fast on this one. Reading faster and answering faster than I can read. So a student is on academic probation for minimum progress. A, if they did not average 13 in a full-time quarter. B, did not pass 12 in a full-time quarter. C, did not pass an average of 15 units in a full-time quarter. And it looks like everybody has answered. And the answer is 13 units on average per full-time quarter.
So this can be a little tricky because it's the 13-unit average.
13-unit average. So thinking back to some of the slides that we talked about earlier, 12 units is the minimum if you are a full-time student. 13 is the expected, 13 units per average per quarter is the expected progress from minimum progress. And 15 units is if you want to graduate within a specific amount of time.
Now, if you're a transfer student, the 15-unit average for a full-time quarter for a 4-year plan, that's based on a freshman. 15 units per quarter times 3 quarters times 4 years is 180 units to graduate. But transfer students, I want to acknowledge you that may be watching that may be variable depending on your prep work that you had when you transferred into UC Davis. Okay. So we have questions already on the docket.
We do. We have, it looks like we have 3 questions so far, but now's a really great time to use that question and answer tool. And if you do have questions, to submit those to us. Lily and I are going to be answering some of those questions live so that everybody can benefit from hearing the answer. Okay? So keep in mind, just a reminder, the question and answer function is anonymous. So you have a chance to ask us, and it's not going to be attached to your name or anything like that.
You want to take the first one?
We'll take the first one. So the first question that we have is, will the dean's office major advisors help with changing schedules? If I don't feel like I'm prepared for a specific class, will advisors help me find a class that can help me take a step back? The answer is yes, the dean's office and major advisors are going to be able to help you strategize your schedule, especially if you feel like you're not prepared for a class. That's a good opportunity to have a one-on-one appointment. So for the dean's office, you can pre-schedule an appointment using the appointment system, or you can use our drop-in appointments to have a discussion about that. But for me, that feels like a really good opportunity to talk about, why you want to take a step back, why you are maybe not feeling prepared. That's an opportunity to have a deeper conversation, and we can make some suggestions as to how to strategize moving forward. Did I miss anything on that?
I would just say, we talked about the timing of the quarter, and and it's just so fast, folks. You all know that, right? So we're already into the end of week 2, and although the 12th day of instruction is the last day to add, but if you're changing your schedule right now, you may want, before you start changing your schedule around, go in and talk with your major. Always talk to the faculty if you're adding a class late. You might be putting yourself in a predicament where you've already missed points. And what does that look like? So yes, seek advising and do so as soon as possible. Even though Schedule Builder lets you do it through the 12th day, that's really not the best to be thinking about adjusting your schedule much beyond, at this point, we start getting a little worried.
We get a little bit worried. I like to think of it this way. As of today, 16% of the quarter is done.
Right.
16%. So that's pretty quick. So yes, it is a great opportunity to go into to the major advisor, to faculty advising, or the dean's office right away to have that discussion.
Now, dropping a class, that's okay.
Dropping a class, that's
okay. But it's just the adding the classes that can be worrisome. And if you are a little bit in over your head and you can't drop or add, and you feel like you're in a pickle, now it's time to start talking about those resources available on campus to help you be successful. Okay, so the next question is, my GPA is above a 2.0, but for the quarter I received a 1.9. How do I get out of academic probation? And do I just do really well for this quarter? So yes, if your UC GPA, your performance here at UC is above a 2.0, but for the quarter, it was just this quarter that you were below a 2.0 and above a 1.5. What you need to do minimally is get a 2.0 in this quarter. And as a note, if you got all C's and 1 C minus, you would not be above a 2.0. We do consider the pluses and minuses in your classes, so you want to get a C average or better this quarter to get back into good academic standing if your overall UC GPA is above a 2.0. You can use the GPA calculator on OASIS and certainly come into the dean's office. We can show you how to use that tool. Again, develop strategies to be successful. And then, even using on OASIS, something we like to do with students is there's an ability to sort your grades. Take a look and see where your best performance has been and where your struggles and challenges have been. Because sometimes students will fly under the radar, kind of not see that they're struggling because they're balancing their C minuses and lower grades with positive, C plus and above grades in elective credits. So, come in and talk with us about how you're progressing in your major. Anything else you would add?
No, that was absolutely perfect.
All right.
Do you want
me to do the next one?
Since you're so familiar with
okay, so the next question is, does qualitative academic probation affect FAFSA? So FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and from the dean's office and any academic advisor and really any office outside of the financial aid office, anybody you talk to about financial aid should tell you, you need to go talk to financial aid, because every student's situation is different. Everybody's academic or financial aid offer can be different, and not knowing your financial aid situation and progress with them, I can't say that it does not, but I also can't say that it would. So you need to go talk to them. I would encourage you to look at their website under the phrase satisfactory academic progress. Satisfactory academic progress. And it's also, in the abbreviation, is SAP, S-A-P. So SAP is a measurement that the financial aid office uses to determine if you're progressing appropriately for the aid. So that can help inform some of your questions, but please talk to the financial aid office about being below a 2.0 and or not passing enough units, okay?
Next question is, I am a transfer student. Does minimum progress still apply to me? And the answer is yes, minimum progress applies to all students. It's an academic expectation, the same as grades. And we sometimes refer to minimum progress as quantitative progress or quantitative expectations. So minimum progress does apply to all students. If you're not sure about your minimum, where you're at in terms of minimum progress, or you feel like you know that you're behind minimum progress, or you're on probation for minimum progress, please come into the dean's office so that we can talk to you a little bit more about where you're at and help you understand where you're at and how you can move forward.
And for transfer students, sometimes you're coming in with different components of your identity. You might be a parent, you might be working full-time. Some of you that are not transfer students might be working full-time. So those pieces that you might not think are things that you need to be discussing with us, we want to talk to you about, like your commute time. Where are you living? Are you working a lot? Do you have children or family members that you need to take care of? You know, that's the holistic advising approach that our office really takes with students to find out, you know, how do these aspects of your identity and who you are affect your ability to succeed. So, let's talk with you about that, because if you are working full-time, or you are a student parent, or you have medical, physical, or emotional disabilities, there may be ways that, or things that are available to help support you through minimum progress.
So the next question, how do I approach professors at office hours? So professors can sometimes seem scary because they're in front of you teaching your classes and running your lectures. And the reality is that professors have office hours for you. And I used to work in a department here on campus, and one of the complaints that I used to hear from professors on a regular basis was many students don't come and see me during office hours. So professors want to see you during office hours. They want you to ask questions. And if you're the type of student who feels like, you know, I didn't quite understand that lecture, or you feel like you would benefit from a more one-on-one explanation of a concept or something that you may be struggling with, office hours are a really great opportunity. And so it's important, I think, to go to office hours prepared, so to speak, meaning have some of those questions ready to go. And if you don't have questions, it's okay at the beginning of the quarter, and I would encourage you to do this as well, to introduce yourself to your professors during office hours. Like I said, professors want to hear from you. They want to know who your students are. And so it's okay to walk into office hours and say, hi, you know, my name is so-and-so. I'm in your class, and I'm really interested in this topic. And that will lead to more conversation about the topic and about the class. But office hours are the first resource that you should use. Faculty members are the first resource you should use if you feel like you're struggling in a class, or you don't know exactly, or you feel like there's a concept you're not quite understanding. So if you're unsure, start with office hours, introduce yourself, and professors are going to be excited to get to know you and to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. And that's certainly something we can expand on more in an advising appointment in the dean's office. I realized that I did not have the hours on this question slide, so I did add those into the webinar chat, so you should be able to see that. I also typed up the satisfactory academic progress, so if you want to write that down for yourself to look this up, my little typo there. And Yeah, so come in and see us, and we can, you know, sometimes students say, well, should I share that part about myself with my professor? And we can help you sort of understand, you know, what would be useful for the professor to know to help be more supportive of you in class. Okay, so the next question is, we have 2 questions in the queue. So if you haven't had your question answered, and we'll be wrapping up after these last 2 questions. If you still have additional questions, you can email the general advising account. Oh, it's actually on the slide.
Okay,
I forgot. So CAES advising, CAES advising at ucdavis.edu. You can call us during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Our office is closed from 12 to 1. And like us on Facebook, because we announce a lot of events such as this one, as well as the ever popular pizza with the counselors and coffee with the dean. So gotta get what you can when you can, right?
That's right.
But okay, so the next question is, if I choose to drop one of my classes and be below the 12-unit minimum, how would I add another class without being behind? So this is a really good question, because it goes back to, you know, at the point of the quarter that we're in right now. What I would suggest to this student is look at what alternative classes you're thinking about adding at this point in the quarter. You know, the quarter goes so fast, you know, adding a class right now, it can be a little dangerous, but talk with the professor. Maybe go ahead and start attending the class, email the professor, ask them what you can do to catch up. And it just, to answer that question, I would want you to look over your schedule with an advisor in the dean's office or with your major, because it depends on how many units that class is that you're trying to drop and how much you're trying to fill in. So, and also this feeling, the terminology phrase of being behind, really it's about what is the goal in that phrase. Is it being behind on a 4-year plan? Is it being behind on sequential courses in your class? Is it, you know, it can be being behind on your own expectations. So come in and talk with us about what is that feeling, where's that feeling coming from of being behind? Because we can also talk about how summer school can help you feel more caught up. And maybe finding some classes that are not so unit heavy to fill in at this point might be a little bit strategic, but seek advising, student that just asked that question. Please come in and talk with one of us. We do have drop-in advising. Today's Friday?
Today is Thursday.
So we have drop-in advising tomorrow. Stop by tomorrow. And right now we kind of have a little bit of some funky hours for drop-in advising, but you could call, you could come in and see our peer advisors, okay? Or see your major advisor.
And the last question that we have is a really great one. What would we expect when we meet up with the dean's office? So when you come into our office, what can you expect of us? Well, you can expect us to ask you lots of questions. We want to get to know you. We work with students holistically, so we want to know how things are going for you, what your goals are. And to get to that information, you can expect us to ask lots of questions. And that's something that we actually expect of you too. We want you to ask us questions. You can expect a dialogue. You can expect us to ask questions, to answer questions, and to really engage with us so that we can learn more about you, what you want. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can give you the best guidance and the best advice. So if your goal, let's say for example, you're really interested in going to medical school, we can connect you to some resources on campus, and we can also talk about how those goals coincide with your major, as well as some other goals that you may have. And we won't know that unless we ask questions. You can also expect us to ask you, like I said, to ask you directly about your goals and what you want out of your time here at Davis. It's important to build what you're doing inside and outside of the classroom. So in going back to some of the resources we talked about, it's important for you to build your network of support and your community here on classes, your community here on campus, as well as it is to build your academic support network. Because that all feeds into helping you be successful and achieve your goals while you're here.
So I interpreted that differently.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So I see the question, what would we expect when we meet up with the dean? So when students get the notification from our office, it comes from the dean. And when you come into the dean's office, the dean is Professor Helene Dillard. You won't be meeting with Dr. Dillard. You won't be meeting with Professor Sue Ebler, who is the dean of undergraduate programs. You'll be meeting with one of us. So on that note, I'm going to put the video camera back on us, make ourselves presentable. But so you'll be meeting with one of us here in the dean's office. I think the camera's going to come back on. Maybe. Oh, it's Brad's camera. Brad's camera's on.
Okay.
Does it sit over here? I don't know. That's kind of strange. Anyways, so you'll see our side heads here. So you're going to be meeting with one of the dean's office academic advisors. There's what, 10, 12 of us?
There's, yes, 10 of us, 12 of us. You're right.
12 of us. There's 12 of us that you
us.
can meet with. But it is everything that Brad said. It is going to be a dialogue. It is going to be, you know, just hopefully creating a relationship that will be with you for the next few years while you're here. So sometimes when students come in and see us, they address us as dean, but we're academic advisors, okay? And then sometimes you can find goodies at the front desk.
Sometimes you can find goodies at the front desk, and especially during our study break.
Yes, study break happens the week before finals.
Week before finals. So you'll have a chance to meet with us when you come into the dean's office. As Lily said, you're going to be meeting directly with one of the academic advisors in the office. And going back to what I said, we're going to want to learn more about you, what's going well, what you feel like you can improve upon, how we can best support you to help you build your community and your academic plan. So we reach out to students through different events, but we really want to see you in our office on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, hopefully today was helpful for you, and go on to the college website, schedule an appointment. You can access appointments from your OASIS homepage as well for your major as well as the dean's office. And if you're thinking about changing majors, what I usually tell students to do is go to the UC Davis homepage, type in the major you're thinking of: global disease biology, advising, food science, advising. And it's usually the first or second link there. So we hope this was informative for you, and we're going to end the show now. So anything last words?
No, other than thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate your time. We hope it was informative, and do not hesitate to contact us if you have any further questions.
Okay, bye.
Bye.